Hello and welcome to today's Woodworking Wisdom. I'm Jason Bridge. So hopefully we're going to show you how to make something a bit unusual. Little table, side table. Why is it unusual? We have lift off top. Alright, so this is an equilateral triangle. We're going to go through a few amazing little tips on how we get to there. A few techniques that maybe you might never make the table, but those tips might be beneficial for things you're going to do. Might get you thinking about how to make this. Even from my point of view, I had to think about solving some of those problems, how to get the best out of this, how to do the joints, all those little tips. So hopefully you're going to enjoy. So before we get started with showing you how we made this, hit that subscribe button. It's going to tell you what's coming up and what's going on. So you get to follow more of the action. See you soon. So we've got our materials. So we've got the material for the top, the legs, side rails, right? So we've got all that. Top's the most important bit at this moment. We've got to join it together. So I've got two boards so I can big match it. This is quarter sawn oak, so it'll be nice and stable. So that means the grain direction is at 90 degrees to the face of the board, near the centre of the tray. I have defect up on here, little shake, another one coming across there. So the two of those come in. I need to make sure we get rid of those. They're up to here. We want to mark out where we want our top. Now I've got an idea where things are. So simple little thing. We've got this bar, we can use this. So all we've got is a piece of wood. I've got measurements on here, so from my holes to holes, that's 11 inches. That'll give me a 22-inch diameter top at the moment. I can always make it smaller. I'm going to put that into here. Now I've got my line here that indicates where that fault line comes down through here. So this is a crack off the end. The other one's already gone. Let's bring that in. Just gently going to give that a little tap. That'll give me just a quick and easy way of drawing my circle if I get it to stay where I want. Just to give us a guide of where things are, so we know where we can cut things off. So we can have a problem around the far edge. Let's move the boards down a bit. Okay. So that'll give us a rough guide of where we want our tabletop as a diameter. We can also cut that out a little bit now. Alright, got a little bit set, but I know I'm probably going to be a little bit smaller in diameter. This is giving me something over that I can work down to. So at this point I know I can cross cut these, get them shorter, might trim a little bit off this end. The shorter it is, the less likely there is to be any twist, the thicker the board will be for the top. That's all beneficial. So it's a case of balance that bit out. We know we might get a little bit of stipe on either end of the board when we're playing it. Again, got to look at that sort of aspect. So we're allowed maybe an inch either end over what we've got. That'll give us our size. So I'm going to break those down to something smaller. Likewise, got the legs. Oh. So these I need to cut to lengths so we can plane them up. I want to get them square before I make them round. That sounds weird, doesn't it? But that gives me the accuracy of being able to trim them nicely and getting what we want shape-wise and get the ends dead square before we even put them on the lathe. So I'm going to break that down to some smaller bits and then we'll get you back again. So we've broken things down a bit smaller, so we've got our top, the leg material. At the moment, still got the rail material to cut down. These are more a priority. I've got to do the mortises, I've got to glue it together, so we're going to machine that up, get them flat, get them down to the sizes we want. So next stage, going to work on the planer thicknesser. So we've got our boards flat. We've checked them nice and straight how they come together. We've just got a couple of white lines. I've been over the top, put some biscuits. So we're going to put 3 biscuits into this to add a little bit of strength. So got them there. Going to go to our setup. So let's just move this about. Going to put it on the bench. Clamp it down, stop it moving. Yeah, I know it's only a biscuit jointer. Check our size. They're 20s. So we're starting to get ready to glue up. So we've obviously got our boards, we know the biscuits are in, we've got some glue, something to clamp with. So I'm going to use some parallel jaw clamps. The real reason for these, I love these little blocks. So let's just bring this round a bit so we can move these and position these. Now, definitely with the oak, this is an advantage because it doesn't make contact with the steel bar, doesn't turn it black where the glue is. So we're going to use that as really our selling point, if you like, on that. So let's just move that over a bit. Our board, going to make life easier. Extra set of hands, there you go. Just checking when I've gone along here, there's nothing flared on the end of where the biscuit joint is cut. You occasionally get a little step, so it's worth checking that that's nice and clean. So our third clamp we're going to bring over the top. We do them all underneath. Everything's going to cut, going to push upwards. This will help bring it down. So we're going to cut the legs to length. And I want to get them nice and clean and parallel. So the whole idea of machining them up square, reduce the size down to roughly what we need before we turn. But also means we've got somewhere getting a nice accurate length either end and square. So actually when we come to turn those, haven't got to do anything to those ends. We can just work on the outside diameter. The ends are already cut. All we're going to have to do is sand them. So this stage, just really going to clean them up. So mitre saw, chop saw will give us cut. I've got block, I've got length stop set up, ready to go. So once I've cut one end clean, I can spin it round, use the length stop, get them all the same length. So on the ends of the legs, so we don't mark them with the drive centres, got a piece of birch ply. I've marked up the centres of the leg. I've marked up the centres of the birch ply. I can line up the corners nicely. So what I'm really getting over now is we can make sure we're accurate. Hot melt glue gun. We're going to put some glue around there. Alright, bit of a bead all the way. This will pick off later. Alright, so with the legs we glued on the blocks either end. But we also want to cut the corners off. So I've taken one of the scraps that we cut off. I've marked out the centre. I've scribed a circle using a set of dividers. And then I've marked on using a 45-degree mitre gauge across the corner. Oh, so let's just go heavy with that one. Just on the edge of that circle. That tells me where that corner edge is. So the aim now is really to use the bandsaw. We can cut these off. Just really save some time when we get to the turning. So we've got our marked out bit with the corner marked. I've set the fence using the mitre off the blade. Alright, so we can lay that on the table, position it on the blade, and now you get 45. Lock it up. I've moved the fence round. Alright, so some bandsaws you can, some you can't. That just makes it easier that gravity will hold the bit of wood for me. Now pencil line I've got, I can bring it in behind the blade and see where we're going to cut. That makes it nice and easy just to get our position to give us just over that true circle. So quick and easy to set up. I've lowered the guides as much as I can, making sure we're going to clear this knob on the side. Locked off our tension. Alright, so everything's ready to go. So we've mounted it between two Pro Drive centres. We have a revolving and a drive centre. I've set the toe rest up using the robust rust because just that little bit longer. So less moving about. We've got a runoff area on the right hand side, which is going to work from centre to right. We've set up about 1/4 inch below centre height. Next thing we've done, sharpen the roughening edge. Why not sharpen it before you start? This is oak, it will take the edge off quickly. By knocking the corners off on the bandsaw, we're saving a lot of time. So, ready to go. Take the speed down, press go, bring it up. Check where things are, alright? So, we stop the live, move the toe rest along. So, we put it up, got to run off this side now so we can safely clear the workpiece. Left foot's a long way out now. Handle low, gently raise it, come along, we can go back this time. Nothing to get in the way. Now we want our diameter, we're nearly round, we've got a little flap there. Okay, so we're going to, a little bit of play, so we want beading tool. So we set the diameter I want, a set of calipers. We've got a little bit, I mean we're nearly, a little flat there, a little bit there, we're pretty good. So 3/8 beading tool. That'll do, one end done. One bit done. Slide them along. Feeling what's going on. Check we got rid of our flap, we have. So when I'm turning this, I'm looking at the very top edge, the work coming towards me to see what's happening up here. Last thing really you want to look at, got a little high spot there. Okay, not much, that's pretty good. Gently raising the handle, pull that gouge along. Nice light cut. Better, that's pretty good. So at that stage, we can sand it. So we've got them nice and straight. You can have a tapered leg, but nice and straight. We've still got to do the joint on the top. Going to sand it. So got cork block. Going to start with some 150. Got the extractor in. Just going to come along with the lathe running. Then we can go up through our grades. So that's the first one done. We sanded to 400. We're going to go a little bit finer in a minute. We've got to get some oil. We'll put a polish on now on that outer structure, because then when we cut the joint, we haven't got that worry about the oil getting in the way of where the joint is. We cut through that material, so we know we've got nice clean wood. We can also do a wet sanding with the oil. So we put it on, use the 600 grit, might start with the Thor. That'll fill any of these minute cracks that I've got in the surface where the oak's dried a little bit. That we've got was never intended for this. It was actually a fence post, so it's quite a benefit, isn't it? But beautiful stuff. So just turn the others. 2 more to go. How easy is that to turn? Hardly any mess. So turn them, sand them. We've still got the joints to do, but kind of think about this. It'd be nice to do oiling now. We can do a wet sanding process, which will put the oil back into the wood a bit more, fill the grind pores a bit, which will be good, especially on the 4-inch oak. Then we can cut the joints after. That's relieving fresh new timber. Everything will glue together. So you haven't got that problem of that overlapping oil aspect. So I'm going to do the oiling now. So all we're going to use, finishing oil, brush it on, then wet sand it. So wet sand it, we're going to use a 600 grit abrasive. Slow speed to start with, a little bit of heat, take it up, and then we'll burnish it. This will be first coat, we can put more coats in later, easy enough. So here we go. Alright, so done our oiling at this stage. Now we've got to fit the mortises in. Now this is a little bit of a tricky thing. So we're going to take the legs off. Let's just put it out the way. Knockout bar. I want to take the drive out. When I started planning this out on a table, I started to look at that leg diameter we've got there and trying to figure out where the mortises have got to come into to our slot. So get that V, so it's a equilateral triangle. In reality it's 3 legs, so they're coming in equally. So try to look at that. Now again, then try to figure out how we can transfer that to the lathe to make it easy to do. So let's put our chuck on here. I get it square. I can show you how you can start to lay this out a little bit. So let's get you looking in a little bit. We need a square that comes up high enough so we can align this. So we've got one of the UJK squares. So we're looking here, we've got our line that comes down. That's great. Okay, now I've opened the indexing up on the lathe. And I kind of worked out with this, it's an equilateral triangle, so I should be able to work out the spacing. Now this has 24 holes on the indexing, so therefore if we rotate 8, 16 and then go 24, get those 3 positions. So got one there, we bring this round, I've got to ride the square back because we've got to offset it to this side, we get the other. Right, so we can work out those positions and then look at where we are with the indexing, which is on the lathe. We'll get you to have a look at that in a sec. One, if I undo the knob from here, twist it round, have a lock-in point is there, our rubber line, and again balancing off the lathe bed a bit there, lines up there. So we can show now how you can get that equilateral thing using the indexing. Really good to do. Our aim is to cut the 2 mortises on that fanny angle coming in. So we need something to hold the router and use the indexing on the lathe. So we've made up a box to fit on the lathe, and this is going to vary depending on the lathes. So at the moment you'll see on the underside, this is what's going to go between the lathe bed, the gap, and it needs to fit tight. I've made everything dead central, so I've marked out with marking gauge, so I've got a line down the middle, screwed that on, and then basically I've built a box. If I spin it round, it's open from this side. Alright, we've got an end. This is about adding structural strength to it, support. In reality, it will sit in there. It's reasonably tight. I can slide it along at this point. Alright, I'm going to struggle a little bit. Down inside here I've also got a bit of MDF I can screw up through, so I can screw into this bottom rail, so once I have my position it stops it moving on the lathe bed. So we bring a leg in, let's have a look, we've got to come back a little bit more. Realign our ProDrive centre point, and our tailstock one is there. So I've mounted the leg. This block I can slide up so it sits on the top of the rail there. The idea of that is that's the spacing or the thickness of my top, the offset downwards. So that's done. We said about the MDF block that goes underneath or between the lathe bed. We can fix the box in place now. So I've got our leg in, we've got the box down now against our position block that's giving me my offset. We can't just plonk the router on the top here and hope. We've got to get it set up nicely. So we've got our box, everything's screwed together, it's nice and rigid, it needs to be fixed in place. Then we need something as a follower board. This I've done as a recess underneath, so it's round, that will literally fit over the top. No movement. Right. The cutouts I've worked out the offset between the top, and we're going to use a guide bush in the router. Okay, so the flange go down here, that can go up and down and there. Right, so I've worked out the offset. Now at the moment my rails are 60mm. I'm going to use a 1/2 inch cutter, a 30mm guide bush. I've got 9mm either side, so this is actually 18mm longer than the width of my rail. That fits on the top, nice and accurate. Now if I go back to our indexing, this side I'm coming down to my green line. The router's set up. We have 30mm guide bush, 1/2 inch diameter cutter. So from here, this will sit into my jig board. Okay, up and down. Now I've got 2 different depths of cuts to do on here. One is pretty much full depth, so I want to just see where we are. That's good. I have to think about cutter rotation as well, so it will pull it against the workpiece. So I've got to move from left to right. That will pull it against that jig. If I try coming right to left, it will cut down towards me, and you're going to cut across where you want your mortise to be. So we've got our main mortise hole cut. We've now got to do the little shoulder recess on the front. So we're going to redo that. Going to lift the router back up. Going to bring it to me now. I'm going to come down. We'll check what overall diameter. I'm going to go 2 mil to start with. So I'm going to use a little depth spacer. So we've got the first one cut. We've got to do the other side. So we've got to move the indexing first to swing it round. So down to the headstock of the live. We've got our green line. I've got the securing knob down on this edge so I can undo it. Rotate it. Look down on my green line squarely. Do the knob back up so it starts to engage. Find our position, which is right in there. Do it up. So now I'm going to come around the other side of the live and I'm going to work, just really fact it's easier for me to work from left to right, do that cut. If I'm stood here, I've got to actually work the opposite way. It makes it, I have to think more. If we've got access to, it can be nicer to come around the other side. I'm going to leave the setting where it is. We're going to do the shallow cut first because that's giving us the accuracy of where we want to be, and then the deep cut. Alright, so we've taken the leg out, got a box, got our centres, got our funny holes. Got a little bit of work to do later, got to square up the back corner. Another thing, I've got short section at the rail. Now a few times when I was trying to get my fingers inside the box with the cover removed just to see where this is. So what I'm trying to see is, where do things line up here? Not bad there. Once that's straight, that's not too bad. Bring it round there. That's pretty good. I'm a tiny little bit over, but that's how the rail is obviously going to come into there. So that rail will come off. It won't fit back properly at the moment because of the curve edge, but it should look quite nice. That's our rail material cut to length. So I've measured it off the drawing and cut it to length. I know the tenons have got to be 40 mil, so we can use a router table to cut the tenons in this case. We could use bandsaw, mitre saw. We could do them by hand. Whole array of different ways of doing it, and we've done videos on all those things. So we're going to set the table up so we can cut the tenons. So let's just put those out of the way. The router table already got large milling type cutter, biggish diameter. To fact, we've got the gap in between the fence. There is the risk that we could fall in a little bit. So we're going to use a false fence. Bit of MDF. And all we're going to do, clamp it in place. This needs to be back far enough to be out the way. That will give me more stability on there. Our rails from memory are 20 mil thick. We've got to do the tenon on the top edge, the recess underneath. So 20 mil minus ½ inch, which is 12.7, we get about 7 mil. So if I use a height gauge onto here, I can switch on. Let's go to 0. I'm going to bring myself down here. If I bring it down to 0, that's 0. Where am I as a cutter height at the moment? I am 7.38. I'm just going to bring the cutter down a little bit. 6.47. That's a good start point for a minute, just to find where we're going to be. We need something to push with. Help keep things nice and square. So now I'm just playing around with a clamp back here, just to see I've got enough room to start before the cut. We can push through. That gives us somewhere keeping it square, but giving you something to push with instead of just being your fingers. Our front face will be the side that's going to have the recess on. So that's going to be down on the table. So I've got to make sure I turn them round. I'm not taking too deep a cut at this stage. Now we could also, if I can find a clean one, use scrap bit just to get our height set. Alright. Other interesting thing I've got is, I know the MDF I've got here is 12-inch or half-inch thick. It will fit into that groove quite nicely. But I'll get the leg and we'll show you how that works. First thing I'm going to do is just do test cut. I've got 10-12mm depth of cut going back to the fence. I've got a scrap bit I can hold, I've got a push block. This is about finding my cutter height. Nothing more than that, not the length of the tenon, just the cutter height. We've locked off underneath. So we've set the cutter height, we've brought that up, okay, that fits in the groove nicely. We haven't got our full depth. What we're going to do now, I've marked up each of the work pieces so I know what the front face is. That's got to go down on the table. We're going to do both ends, do the first cut, then we're just going to move the fence back progressively till we get the length we want, which is 40mm. So we've got the first pass done, but we're now going to move the fence back. We need to come back overall about 25mm, no more. So we've got to keep an eye on that, but we can move back gradually. So let's just slide those back out of the way. Set up different prep bits, something a little bit narrower, and again, out the scrap off the end of the board. This will mean it will fit in because we've got those curved ends of the rails we're going to use in a minute. So done exactly the same on there. So at this point, we can come back a bit more now. Now I said 25mm, I can even use the ruler at the moment as a gauge of how long we are. I've got a little bit still to go. Better to do 2 or 3 cuts to get to that end result than one heavy cut. So in here we're just test fitting. Now as I said, I've made this narrower so we don't clash with the curve off the back of the router cutter. Still got a bit more depth, but you can see how this is coming together nicely. So we cut the tenons, a nice slow feed speed coming through, especially on the end. You get less breakout on this back corner here, give you a more strut. Next thing we're going to do, we've got a rounded back corner in the back of the tenon. Now we could square it up by hand. I also thought maybe it'd be nice on the inside edge, bottom and the top edge of where the tray is going to be inside, that we round off that corner. So all I've matched is a round over cutter to the diameter of the cutter we used to do the mortise, 1/2 inch. So this is a radius that will match exactly that curve, 6 point something. All right, I have to think about this now. 6.27. This might be 6mm, but it'll be close enough just to round over the edge. So they're going to fit in. We're going to take it off the back. So all I'm going to do now is change the cutter, get it set up, and run them through. So we've done the back, this is going to be the inside, so we've rounded off, which is going to relate to the back edge here. Now at the moment the tenon still won't fit the hole. Why? We've got the round edge on the front. So if we flip these over, we've got to round these corners off just a little bit, give you that shape. So we can go to the vise, easily done. So we've taken our tenon we've got there, we've got to take this corner off. Japanese rasp, I love these. Nothing as a side edge, so actually we can sit on that, won't hurt. All we want to do, push down that edge. So the tenon we cut straight off the router cutter, the milling cutter, nice and flat. This one, all we've just done is round off that shoulder edge. So we've used a Japanese carver's rasp. That will allow it to fit into the curvature of where the tenon is back in here. So I've done a dry fit. So we've obviously cut those tenons, we've adjusted the back, that corner on the front, sliding things together. I've numbered each joint on the plywood face on the top, 1 to 6. That makes it quite simple. Let's just have a quick tilt. Right, so we know that will come off later. Just going to bring that back down. Let's clear that clamp. We've got a clamp on the top here, okay? So these I can pump up. They're quite good because they will pull it together nicely. Problem with this type of shape though is now getting it apart because you've got 2 interlocking joints. So actually one of the nice features with this, we can take the head off, quickly turn it round for you, put it down the other end, lock it on. We can then use this just to get into here if I bring it in a bit. So instead of taking my mallet to this, we can gently, and like I say, we've got to work with 2 joints on each of these, pull that apart, so no bashing it, no distortions, no heavy things that you might crack or break a tenon. So that's got it apart probably enough that I can now wiggle things out. Oh. Other thing I've done, let's just leave the rest there, just going to explain on here, got a white line. That's the bottom of my side rail. So now we've got to put the base in. Got to sink a plywood base in. So that's where it's got to be. So I've highlighted that now. On the router table, we swing round a little bit. We have 7mm straight cutter. Okay, we set that up. I've looked at where it's going to be in relation to our recessed edge. Don't want it being right at the top of there. I want it set up a little bit. That looks quite good. We can have a practice run in a minute. We're going to cut our groove. We've got to go a little bit deeper. Going to do it in more than one pass. One heavy cut on this. Quite a lot of weight on that cutter. I know it's 7mm. It's 1/4 inch shank. Yeah, it will do it. This is dry English oak. This is heavy stuff. So 2 passes will give me a better finish than one heavy cut. Going to take 30 seconds longer maybe. So we've got our groove. Now this is a little bit bigger than the plywood. I'm going to cover the ply on the inside with some leather. So I've got that. At this stage, I'm going to put it back together as a complete table frame. Once I've got it back together, I'll be able to draw out the shape we need for that plywood base. So just going to assemble things, then we'll have a look with you. So we've got the groove for our bottom rail. We also need to put it in the leg in the same position coming round. So I've come back into where we set up on the lathe to do the mortise and tenons or the tenon groove. We've got to do that groove round here. So we can use the same box. So I put the leg in position. I put a bit of masking tape on here. We'll get you a bit nearer in a sec. I've got a bit of plywood that we can locate into there and then draw a line. So on here, if I put this in here, I've fitted the plywood to fit our groove. I need to be as near as I can be this side. So I'm pushing that down, trying to make sure things look square, really in that corner. Due that my plywood is thicker than what we want, I've got to turn it round, so I'm using that flat face this side as well. Alright, again, same thing, just going to do that line. That gives us this location where the groove's got to go. So we've got to match that now and come around. When I made the jig books on here, did the 2 so we can fit in. Now in this case, if everything fits really accurately, I can turn this round. I've then transferred my marking from there over to the side. So all I've done is just square across to follow a line. I've come down the side a little bit. I can then put my box on. I can locate and bring the line back up through. Got my line in the middle. I've drilled the 30mm hole to match the size of the guide bush we used before. Exactly the same. Looking down through, looks quite central. Looks is one thing. I want it to be central. So we can use the guide bush. Then all I've done is make up something to hold my pencil. So sharpen the pencil, little bung to fit inside here. I can put that down. We can use this if I can get it in the right place. Not enough. Alright, so gradually bring our pencil back down, trying to make sure the pencils will be central. Sharpen the pencil on the lathe can be good. Okay, this will give me an indicator mark. Now at the moment it's telling me I'm just a little bit low. Now what I can do is move the box up the lag bed just fractionally. So this is giving me that double check of where things are. So I've tracked out where our groove's got to come around the leg. So I put a piece of masking tape on, easier to see. So I've got our position, got our line drawn around it. We can rotate the work to do that. Let's take that rail out. Using the jig box we made before, I put a hole on the other end down on here. 30mm. So I've worked out exactly where that needs to go by tracking across to the outside edge using a square and our lines here as our guide. And then put it up round. Drilled our hole. That matches the same size as the guide bush we're using. We've gone with the same size guide bush. That'll hold it. We've got the cutter in the router. Oh. Right, so we have the cutter in the router, the same one we've done the groove with. Now, I know this seems a bit daft doing with a new cutter. If you colour in where the chip is, you make sure it's side to side. That's pretty good. I can come down through my hole. Let's get a new bit there. I'm going to bring the cutter back up. Gently lower this so it makes contact onto the work. We'll get two little dot lines. I take the board off. And here. So I've done a number of tests just to check where we are, and we're coming back. So I'm trying to line up. First one was a little bit high. I can move the box up just fractionally if I need to adjust anything up the lag bed. So that gives me accuracy. So if you look at where I started, you'll see we've dotted down through. On the end of the leg where we can see I've got a couple of bits of tape. I've got a green little dot just on the end of the board. That tells me my start point. I'll be able to turn the leg round by hand using the handwheel on the back over to the other one. So I know where my start and finish point is only between those two mortises, not the whole workpiece. Alright, so got that set. Got the first one done, just got to do the other two now. So starting to get to that bottom thing, we've got everything constructed, left dry joint, no glue yet. So the base takes a little bit of drawing out, so instead of going straight into the job and marking it out and matching up maybe a good bit of plywood, I've gone with a scrap bit of packing type ply. Alright, I've drawn it up as an equilateral triangle. I've measured off of the frame, I've got the curves, I've worked out in the corners a 65mm, there's a 10mm recess on each one where we've done the groove. So I've done all that little bit. Takes a little bit of thinking about. The good thing by doing it on here first, if you get it wrong, you're not messing up that expensive bit of plywood that's going to be important. So got that all done, test fitted. I know there's 10mm rebate all the way around the side where it fits in, and got to fit in the legs. Corner bits, I can soften those. Don't want those really sharp. It's going to be difficult to get together. They almost need to be square and not continue as that curve. So that's things. Once I've got that, I can mark it up onto the important bit of ply. Alright, so I've already drawn out our triangle. Part of the problem we find when doing the video is trying to draw lines and get them to come up nicely on the camera can be difficult. So I've drawn that out. So then got to cut that out. So I'm going to go guide rail saw, guide rail, come across. And then the curves we can do bandsaw. So put the base in now. We draw assembled again. I've got ratchet strap just holding around the edge to pull everything together. Tricky thing to pull together because obviously it's three-legged. You're pulling in, you've got to fit everything a little bit at a time, but you've got to put it all together in one go. So next stage with the plywood, get it back out. We're going to glue the lever onto the top. So that's PVA and then the lever, and let that dry. So we cut our ply. I've had a quick look at it. I've got my lever out. I've cut a bit off that's just big enough, so I've reduced the size. So have a bit scissors, cut it down. Now we're going to stick it down. So we need some PVA. I've got a couple of boards just to try and work on, keep it more flat and everything else. So then with our PVA, we're going to need quite a bit to start with. So I'm going to work middle. I can always take it back off. I'm going to spread this out. Can also use that spreader on the back. As you can see, my ply's got a little bit of a cup. My aim is to get a nice thin layer all the way, so gently coming out towards the edges more. Probably going to have a bit too much on here, but we can then get rid of some. Just checking now we're covering, we've got one edge that we can work off this side, which, just want to have a quick look. I'll bring it off of there. I want to clamp it down. Just feeling with my fingers in underneath now. Now we're going to stretch it out a bit. Don't want any bumps, lumps, trying to get rid of as much as I can. PVA now will start to go off, obviously. This is just about really keeping it in situ. Just marking out the top now, so I've drawn on a circle, so I've just used a piece of wood, a couple of holes drilled in it, pencil, nail just literally pushed into the centre point I've marked, just to give me the position. So this is, oh, let's have a look, just under 520, which for those older guys, 20 inch, okay, that's quite a good size, that will look quite nice. We've got the 3 cutouts to do, but the first thing really we've got to do is cut this out. Probably going to put it on the lathe just to skim the edge as well. We could have a bull nose edge or something, then we can try it. Or we can bounce off, maybe do a round tip one as well. We'll have a look. To mount the top on the lathe, we're going to fix it on the underside, so you're not going to see too much. We're going to do the moulded edge of some type. Got faceplate at the moment, going to use a carrier board. So to fix this down, going to use a centre drill. Give us a nice accurate pilot hole. Got quite chubby screws for this. They give me a good fixing. Don't want to go all the way through. They've got a bit of weight to carry, so we need to make sure we get a few in here. So, just drawing our circle out. At this point I've also made sure we remembered where our biscuits are, which might probably on the other side. So I've had to flip that over, get to there. That's our diameter. Other thing I need to do is just do a centre line as well. So, going to be quick and easy on this one. Just going to use, I made for a drawing triangle. Not going to be long enough to go there, but we can come across that way. So this is just really giving me a right angle in line with my pinhole in the middle. That's good. So we've now got something as, if you like, 4/4. This stage we can go to the bandsaw. Once we've cut it out, we're going to fix our carrier board on, hence the fact we've done those pencil lines, so they will line up with where we started with a square on the carrier, and then we can fix it on the lathe using a glue chuck. So with our carrier board, we've got that round. We cut our tabletop on the bandsaw. Now on the underside I've drawn that crossover line, so actually I've got the same effect on the carrier board, so I can line up those 4 points. That looks pretty good. Then I'm going to go hot melt glue gun. It's amazing what we can kind of do with this. Got to wheel it around a little bit. This will come off later and we can sand it up. The reason for this, don't want any screw holes in that board. So, just using that. being quite heavy, but coming up the plywood now, so it will drop down because it's warm. And give a good bomb. Obviously the next thing we'll got to make sure this nice and cooled off and dry. Alright, so we looked at this, so we've got our carrier board, which is the ply with the faceplate, hot melt glue. We've set the lathe up so we can do bigger diameter. Let's just grab that off. So I've moved the headstock along, lower bed extension, so if you've got a lathe that will do bigger diameter, this can be a good way of doing it, okay? Other major thing I've already thought about, taking the speed down. Much bigger diameter, drop that speed down lower. So we can bring this round, just going to screw that on. Check where things are there, check they're done up. Let's just do spindle lock just for a brief, so the inertia doesn't unwind it, that's good. I can bring the tool rest in, I'm going to be down the side here. All those safety things we normally do, check it, turn it over by hand. High spot there, look, bring that to there. Make sure we lock up, everything tight. Other thing, lower the speed before you start. So I can bring that up. Nice and slowly, there you go. That's safer to do. Ready to go. So with the bowl gouge, we've made sure it's nice and sharp. I've got the flute upright. I'm generally going to roll my right wrist, so we just cut. There's our cut. A little bit of bounce, same as we do a normal bowl. Still got a little bit. So we can also obviously shape this a little bit. Now I can work from both sides. I'm just going to come around the back of here. Gouge using right hand wing. Right, okay, just come back into the hand tool room. Really, the fact the bench height's a bit higher, a bit easier to work on. I can stand opposite and see you instead of you looking over my shoulder. So looking at a few things now, we've got a lever glued on the board. I've trimmed the excess off around the edge with my marking knife. Really easy to do. I've had a dry fit together to make sure it all comes together. I put a masking tape line around here, which really just helps make sure we don't get any oil or glue on it. So that's why that looks a bit like that. I've put a coat of oil on the inside of where those rails are. Just again, easier to get to now, and I've made sure I've missed the ends where we're going to glue up. So I've really just done the inside. The outsides I can do later when we put it in. I've obviously sanded them so they're ready to be glued up. Next thing I've got to do really, you're going to set up and just take the blocks off the ends of here. I've debated, do we leave them? It's quite nice. They're protecting the end of the legs at the moment. But it's going to be easier to hold them now singly and take those off compared to when it's all together and then you've got to beat it about. So, going to do that next. So we've got to take these off. So we hot melt glue them on. So first thing, and this is where I said it can be easier, let's put in the vise. Give you something to hold, just coming off the metal work going down, so we're not going to mark it. Check you've got hold of it. Sharp chisel. I know, it's criminal, isn't it? Sharp chisel and glue, but it'll be alright. And then all we're going to do, let me come down to this side of it. Just going to prise using sharp edge under that glue. Each side. So I haven't taken that off. Look how clean the top of that leg is. So we've got no drive centre mark or anything to clean up now. So a nice way of doing something. So that hot melt glue, good little trick. Right, I've got the blocks off. So I'll clean them up a little bit. Next stage I'm going to do the gluing up. It's only gluing up, so actually I'm going to do it by myself. Alright, I'll show you how it looks when we've got the clamps on and everything, but just takes the stress out and less race for me. Alright, so we'll see you in a minute. There you go, stressful bit out of the way, glued together. Alright, a little bit tricky because of the shape. You've got to feed it all in one go. Got to get the bottom in, make sure the lever's all in. A little ruler can be useful, right? Even though I've learned that. So gone with quick action clamps. Why? Quick action. Also nice deep throat that gets round those. The first thing I actually use though, ratchet strap. Really useful just to hold it together whilst you stop you fighting it, okay? So combination of those two clamps work really well to go round. There's just a PVA. Might need to thin it just a little bit at this time of year. If it's really warm, it'll be worth just a little bit of water, give you a bit more open time. Right? So that bit's together. Got the top just to fit now. So, glued up. A little bit of clean up just to check things over. Looks quite good. Alright. I'll get you in, you can have a look in a minute. A bit of oil on there. Okay. Got our leather tray. Got a top at the moment down on here. We've still got the faceplate attached. We can take that off in a minute. Now, another little thing I've done, and I'm going to explain. So we have template. This is made out of scrap piece of plywood. I wish it was a bit flatter, but got that. I've cut in the shape of where each of the legs is going to come through. So I've made template. How do we do that? On the lathe. So mount it onto a scrap board, screw it on. You can see the screw holes in the corner. Then turn the diameter I require. So it will just fit over my legs for a bit of play. All right. Need a little bit of slop. Millimetre clearance. Then from there I've drawn out carefully on my bit of plywood where I want those, and then using the router screw these together. I can cut that shape out. So use the router, bearing guided cutter, we can cut that out. So then what we're aiming to do is get it to fit on there quite tight. So let you have a look at all of those. So our aim with our template, having checked it and how it fits, you might make a couple of these. You can see I've drawn out different ones on here. We're actually then going to put it on the top. We're going to clamp it down nicely. We can cut each of those leg shapes out. So we'll go back next door, going to use the router. So we did the same as we did before. We got a chisel, we worked in from the edge. We can take the disc off. Now I've left it till now because it helps protect it. Kept it up off the bench when we've done the routing. Allows the clamps in underneath a bit. So take it off, you get a little bit of glue line residue. The more you get rid of, the less it's going to affect the sander. So having got to that stage of chisel, good old cabinet scraper, just to clean that line up. So that's just cleaning that glue off, getting rid of anything. Last stages really, we're getting there now. I need to sand the top. We can also sand the top of the legs, okay, so we can do that. You might want to do a small round over cutter on the inside edge of these. I might probably leave it square. I might also put a couple of little pads in underneath, bit of leather. We know this is moving about, so I could stick the leather just on top of. That would cushion it when you drop it on. So we sand that up. We're then going to get it all oiled, and we'll let you have a look. Right, okay, so we come back into the hand tool room. Why? Just a little bit cleaner, there's less dust. I've got a bit tidying up to do in a minute. So you need to finish this off. So we've got our finishing oil we've been working with. First place I'm going to go over to, top of the legs. Don't want too much. What I'm going to try and do is build up light cuts generally. The stuff on the top of the legs, just move it about, I can see it where it's being absorbed in quite quick. Then we're going to go to the top. Underside first. Wow. Look at that pop. leave that a couple of minutes. Let's just wipe off the top of the legs now. So, green cloth, go along. So we're not putting loads on. First coat, using the same cloth now, just to spread it about and absorb the excess, but not trying to wipe it all off. Important to do both sides. Keep it balanced. Most important thing, remember to wipe back a little bit or it's going to go very sticky quite quickly. We can put more on, we'll build that up. So as I said, wipe it off. Now next stage, let it dry. Alright, then you need to rub it back maybe with some 320 grit flour type paper. Do it again. Build those coats up. 5 or 6 coats will give you a great finish, make it a bit more waterproof. Even alcohol resistant to a degree, so you could put your wine glasses on the top. But build those coats up. Lightly, a little bit at a time. So there you go, something as a small side table. We've got the lid we can lift up so you can store things like your magazines inside. Quite nice to have a sit down, have a cup of coffee and something to put it on. Quite compact, quite small, easy to move about. Fit most of our houses, especially in the UK. You American guys, you might make it bigger, I don't know. Right, so hopefully you've enjoyed. Give us a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, we'll show you what we're doing next soon. Alright, thanks for joining us. Bye then.